Hi everyone, Julia is here. I'm glad to see my channel here for the Fruition. And with you in today's video will be Lusitania, part number 2. So let's begin. We continue to study the real events of the death of the Lusitania. Who missed part number 1? Be sure to start with it.
So the explosion sent up a column of broken steel plating and water. A second, more powerful internal explosion immediately followed, after which the Lusitania began to roll heavily to starboard. The radio operator sent out a distress signal non-stop. Captain Turner ordered the ship to be abandoned in an attempt to turn it around and run it aground. The liner continued to move, which caused the water to enter faster. 6 minutes later, the Lusitania's tank began to sink. The roll to starboard greatly complicates the launching of the lifeboats.
As a result, only 6 boats were launched. The rest were washing away into the sea. Despite the measures taken by the captain, the liner did not reach the shore. Panic broke out on board.
Considering the sinking Lusitania, Schweiger drew attention to the thick smoke and severe damage to the deck and superstructures. German sailors suggested that the explosion of the torpedo caused the detonation of coal dust or the explosion of a significant amount of ammunition that was in the hold near the coal bunkers. This view has become generally accepted in Germany. Subsequently, the Minister of the Navy Tirpitz noted in his memories, the immediate death of the Lusitania was caused by a second explosion of ammunition loaded into the hulls.
According to the official version of the British, the Lusitania was killed by the explosion of 2 German torpedoes. Responsibility for the death of the passenger ship was assigned to the Command of the German naval forces, which allowed submarine captains to attack peaceful ships without warning. However, during the First World War, only 2 specialists experts of naval weapons could appreciate the main mistake of commission of inquiry. Even 2 torpedoes could not sink the huge ship in a matter of minutes.
The torpedoes used by the German submarines were relatively imperfect. Could such a torpedo make a hole in the side of a Lusitania, into which, as eyewitnesses of the event said, locomotive could pass? As it was in fact, we are left to guess. At 14:25, Schweiger lowered the periscope and went to sea. On the Lusitania, meanwhile, boilers exploded and pipes collapsed. The ship passed another 2 miles, 3 kilometers, from the site of the torpedo attack, leaving behind a trail of debris and fallen people. At 14:28, the liner capsized, keel up, and sank 8 miles, 13 kilometers from Kinsale.
Other ships began to arrive at the site of the death of the luxury ship, the English steamships Etonian and Seat of Disaster, the American tanker Narragansett, and also English cruiser Juno. The most daring was the Greek cargo ship Catherine, which picked up the most of survivors. Fishermen from the coast of Ireland also showed courage, who saw the wreck on the ship and sailed to rescue passengers. Fishermen found and pulled Captain Turner out of the water after 3 hours in water. According by one version, Captain Turner unwittingly framed his passenger by secretly transporting 4.2 million rifle cartridges in the hulls. Survivors of the Lusitania indicated that there were 2 explosions, but the captain of the submarine, Schweiger, claimed that he fired only 1 torpedo. As he wrote in the ship log, The cause of the second explosion could be boiler, coal, or gunpowder. In June 1915, the Austrian-Hungarian embassy in the United States sent a confidential letter to State Department. The Austrian diplomats showed in detail how the explosives of the American chemical concern DuPont were loaded aboard the Lusitania into the bow-hold rooms. There were 40 pounds boxes in the amount of 3,800 pieces.
They aroused particular interest. A strange cargo lined with canvas, labeled as packages of cheese. The documents named the sender of this strange cargo U.S. citizen Fraser. His name is often found in New York port documents. In 1915, he was on the list of the largest importers of goods from the United States. But further verification showed that before the war, Fraser was an insolvent debtor. The English journalist Simpson, an investigator of the case, suggested that Fraser was precisely the figurehead with the help of which the British formalized the export of military materials from the United States, primarily explosives produced at the factories of the DuPont Company.
However, there is no direct evidence of the transportation of weapons across the Atlantic Ocean, as well as the facts of alteration of any premises of a liner for other purposes. Who doubted? Interestingly, the surviving Crucian passenger later recalled that on the day of their arrival in Liverpool, there were several demonstrations with English and Russian flags. Outraged crowd smashed 150 German-owned stores. Well, we all know this scenario from time to time, the infringement of the rights of nations. Everything is cyclical, and it's more offensive that every time people are being led. By the way, subscribe to my channel, mark the bell in order not to miss new release, and push the button if you like this video. Move on. A wave of German pogroms swept across England. Leaflets were put up detailing the barbaric cruelty of the Germans. The demonstrators carried anti-German slogans and demanded that Germans be punished. Doesn't it remind you anything?
The US government even sent an official note to Berlin. The German government was forced to limit submarine warfare. From June 6, 1915, German submarines were forbidden to attack large passenger ships. Do you understand what this is for? And if we talk about the key unouting puppets in this scenario, then Captain Turner lived until 1933 and died of cancer at the age of 76. And Captain Schwager died in the fall of 1917 as a result of submarine hitting a mine. He was 32 years old and managed to sink 49 ships. But this is not all. In April 1982, the ship Merrick of the Scottish company Ocearing, which carries out complex underwater work using unique equipment, approached the site of the sinking of the Lusitania. An underwater manipulator was launched from the ship, a small, remotely controlled submarine. The survey of the site of the sinking of the Lusitania was conceived as a promotional event that was supposed to show the capabilities of the new technology. The preliminary result of the survey exceeded all expectations. Underwater cameras showed that the bow compartments of the sinking liner were cleared of debris and the cargo hatch cover was turned off. When the underwater manipulator slowly descended into the hold, the specialist could not contain their astonishment. On the screen, according to them, an image of the ship's inner plating appeared with deep longitudinal grooves that the bucket leaves for lifting sinking objects and cargo. It's hard to imagine, but the hull of the Lusitania is swept like a living room, said one of the journalists who took part in the search.
Underwater photographs show that in the region of the port side of the Lusitania, huge hole was visible in ball plating. Explosives experts concluded that a powerful explosion had occurred inside the hold. It was reported in the English press. Specialists from the ocean firm, after detailed examination of the Lusitania, came to the conclusion that all evidence that could establish what kind of cargo was in the bow hold of the Lusitania was destroyed after the death of the ship.
According to information received from British journalists, the Irish Coast Guard reported that an auxiliary vessel of the British Navy stopped at the crash site in 1946 for a long time, and subsequently a ship appeared at the site of the Lusitania's death, which carried out underwater work. However, representative of Ocearing admitted that they were not ignored by the government of Her Majesty, and only at the end of 20th century, documents were found in the archives of the USA Federal Services that allowed to conclude that the Secret Service of the U.S. Department of Justice was directly related to these strange events. The death of the ship is still mysterious to this day, and still in England, government documents on the Lusitania case are strict state secret.
Well, I said so much, but got a lot of stuff to talk about. See you in next thematic video.